Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Sunny here, the founder of StockSmarty, and what I thought I'd do today is just do a search for some of the more popular ETFs that most of us will be well familiar with, see which stocks they all own, and see if they can give us any guidance in regards to what we should be or what we could be investing in. So here I am, just logged into the StockSmarty platform, and what I'm going to do is go to the New Analysis tab, which will give us the option to select our ETFs, and the four that I'm going to focus on today is SCHD, which is the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, and this one is really for quality and yield stocks, so companies with strong fundamentals that also pay well. We're going to look at the VIG, which is the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF. It ignores yield entirely and tracks companies with long histories of growing their dividends. We look at VYM, which is the Vanguard High Dividend Yield, which basically goes the other way. It's purely high yielding stocks and companies. And then finally DGRO, which is the iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF, and it focuses on growth focused companies. So without further ado, let's search for those and we'll add those to our analysis. So SCHD, we'll do VIG and VYM, and finally DGRO. We go continue. So in terms of my dividend yield threshold, I'm going to lower that all the way to 0. I want to see all stocks that are in the various ETFs and where the overlap is. My analysis, I'm going to keep it method A. I want to look at all sort of the top 50 stocks within those ETFs, and for now I'm going to assume a £10,000 investment amount. So I click analyze, and then after a few seconds we should see the results of the analysis. So we've got 54 stocks that qualified for a portfolio, and that would be those that appear in more than one ETF, and also those that meet the dividend threshold, which in this case is 0. So basically anything that is in 2 or more ETFs will appear in our analysis. We've got the average dividend yield, how many unique stocks there were in total, how many are in our backup. So these would be ones where they only appeared in one of the ETFs. How much our annual dividend yield would be from these stocks alone based on a £10,000 input. That's how much it would be on a monthly basis, our highest yield, average scores, and how many sectors that covers. So again, if we look at our sector breakdown, we've got the analysis here about what coverage we have via these stocks within the industries. So then if we go down to our analysis, again we have the two tables. We've got our portfolio allocation table at the top, which is our qualified stocks, and if I scroll down to the very bottom, we've got our backup stocks. So as I said before, because our dividend yield was set to 0, basically our only threshold is those that appear in more than one ETF, so these only appeared in one, as you can see here. Then if we scroll to the top table, we can see that these appeared in at least 2 or more, and then obviously the ones that appeared in the most have a higher frequency, and again the score is based on the frequency and the weighting within that portfolio. So obviously if a stock appears more than once in various ETF and it also has a high weighting within that top 50 threshold, then it would achieve a higher score, just like our friends at the top, United Health, Qualcomm, Procter & Gamble, etc. So just as before, you can click into the I here and it will give you the overview of the stock. So again, our safe score based on stability, track record, profitability, etc. Some dividend information, and when's the next ex-div date, when are they paying, the history of the dividend over the last X number of years, 10 or so years, and their growth rate, where it compares to kind of Wall Street targets and averages, and then the fundamental stuff at the bottom, PE ratios, market caps, etc, etc. So you can click into any of the stocks and get this information. We can see the allocation or the recommended allocation that StockSmarty puts against this. We do have a warning at the top that it's a large portfolio, 54. I mean, most of the investment trading platforms, etc., like Trading 212, which I like to use, limit their pies to 50 stocks. So in this case, what I would probably do is just limit that by deleting the last 4. If I did, or when I do so, what this will do is just readjust the percentages just to make sure that they round off at 100%. So I've got a 50 stock portfolio averaging around 2.33% in dividend yields, and which is weighted by those which is more preferred within each ETF based on frequency and weighting. So if I wanted to, I could get a quick AI analysis of this portfolio. And what this does is gives me a overview of my portfolio. So an overview at the top, a review of the dividend income, the sustainability of the stocks within the portfolio, any sector concentration, geographical exposure, the risk profile, and a review of each of the stocks within the portfolio one by one. This just gives me a good insight into how my investments look. Of course, I can tweak them. I can remove certain stocks if I don't like them. I can add stocks in if there are some missing that I'm really confident in. So, you know, the tool gives you the flexibility to add or remove when necessary. So this is a good overview for someone that isn't necessarily concentrating on dividend investment, but just wants to see what are the strong stocks within those various ETFs. You may select a few, you may create a pie out of those strong stocks like I've done here. So these 50 stocks I could easily put into a pie and trade in 212, invest that on a monthly basis. So it's really up to you. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to save this portfolio. I'm going to save it as SCHD, VIG, VYM, DGRO. I'm going to call it non-div focus. So when I save this now, this will then appear in my portfolio section. So at any given month or week going forward, I can view what we've just saved into our portfolio, our 50 stocks. I've also got the option to review our dividend calendar, so I can see obviously what's when the ex-div date is, what's coming up in terms of payments, when have they happened, etc., etc. So this is obviously good to track. I also get a view of any news associated with my stocks in the portfolio. So what this will do is go out to various websites and find the news associated with your stocks. It will give a summary at the top around, you know, key themes of your profile, and then any particular news articles that you may take interest in reading. And if you click on the article, it will open up in a separate tab, which you can then read at your leisure. So that was a non-dividend focused search, but again, we can do the same thing focusing on dividend yields. So again, if I search for the same stocks, but this time I'm going to leave the dividend yield at 2%, leaving everything the same, which means this time it will filter anything out that has a dividend yield of less than 2%. So if I was more driven on creating a dividend focused portfolio which meets a certain criteria, you see in this case our average dividend yield is a lot higher. So we returned less stocks in our qualified portfolio because we now have the threshold of a 2% dividend yield. So we have our stocks at the top with the frequency, dividend yield and score, and the recommended allocation. And here we've got our backup stocks, so we can see that the frequency was only 1 out of 4 ETFs. So even though it has a high dividend yield, it didn't meet the criteria to appear in 2 or more ETFs. But again, if I wanted to add that in, I can do. I press add, it appears in yellow. It gets a fairly low score, obviously, because it doesn't only appears in 1 of 4 ETFs, and it's at your leisure if you want to add in any more stocks that you feel might be missing from this. So again, I can save this portfolio. I'll add it as SCHD, VIG, VYM, DGRO, and we'll call it Div Focus. So again, just as before, I now got 2 portfolios, one non-div focus, one div focus. I can see at the card level, obviously the amount of stocks I have in my portfolio, 34 and 50, the average dividend yield, my yield on cost. It's currently calculating performance, but obviously because we've just saved it, the stocks will not move today, so there is no performance. And then again, it just shows a quick link to the dividend calendar. And again, if I wanted to analyze this portfolio from an AI perspective, just like I did before, I can click on the AI button here, or again, I can go into view, scroll down, and use my analysis portfolio button. And the table, as before, just reflects what we saw on the previous tab. It does show a price at save and a current price, so if there was any movement in the market, you can check against the price today against what you saved it as, and that's what really drives the since inception percentage plus minus on the face card. So again, as before, if this was a month or a few weeks down the line, I can rebalance the portfolio, which would mean it would search under the same criteria as we put in today. Obviously there's not going to be any changes yet, but what I would get was a assessment on the left hand side of a comparison of the stocks against what I had in version 1 and what I've now got in version 2. It still has my yellow line, which is my manually added Comcast stock from the previous analysis, and so forth. And just like the overview video, which I'll paste above, any yellows persist through any rebalance. If you added or modified anything in yellow, then it would persist. So again, I'm going to save this as V2. And as you can see, I've got my V2 now. So if I scroll into my view, I've got my original V1 and then my V2, which is exactly the same because obviously there's been no changes. So again, what we can do now, we can go to our forecast tab. We can compare our two profiles, one against the other. So we can look at our non-div focus profile, which we're only at version 1, and then we can add in a new one, which we'll do our div focus. And obviously because we rebalanced, we have version 2, although we know it's exactly the same as version 1 for now. We can put in a starting amount will contribute, and a time horizon. We put in an assumed growth rate of stocks, so we can put in 7%, which is somewhat reflective of the S&P 500. And then we can see via the table above and the graph below a comparison. So we've obviously got a more beneficial portfolio in our second dividend-focused portfolio because we have a higher dividend yield. We are reinvesting those dividend yields, and therefore we have a more successful portfolio after 20 years. So if we're putting in £500 a month, starting at 10 grand, about 440,000 in the dividend-focused portfolios against just over 400 in the non-div focused. And obviously our yield on cost is much better in the dividend-focused portfolio. So good, that was a quick analysis of the SCHD, VIG and VYM and DGRO ETFs. I hope you found that useful. Again, please log on to StockSmarty.com, create your portfolio. Just as before, you can start absolutely free. It'd be great if you could log on, sign up, give me any feedback that you have. And again, if you have any suggestions for any further videos, or you want me to look at any other particular stocks, please let me know and we can do that in any future video. So appreciate you for watching. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.